Hi, today we have love-inspired contemporary author Danielle Grandinetti, but she's also a historical fiction author. She is traditionally published and indie published, so she's done a little bit of everything. So Danielle, why don't you just tell everyone about yourself?
Sure. My name is Danielle Grandinetti. I am, as Jennifer said, I am both indie and traditionally published in both historical and now contemporary. So I was stretching myself. I'm originally from the Chicagoland area, but when I met and married my husband, I moved to Wisconsin, which is where most of my books are set. Um, Live on the eastern side, right by Lake Michigan, which is really fun. I am a second or third generation Italian American. I am also the granddaughter of dairy farmers. And all of that kind of combines itself to um, infuse my stories with small town and family and farming community and Wisconsin.
Awesome. So I've never heard it called the Chicagoland area. So I'm a little, I'm embarrassed to tell you that I was a middle school teacher and geography is not my thing. So does that mean you lived in Chicago area?
You're right. So if you're from Chicago, if you're not from Chicago, it's just easier to say I'm from Chicago. But when you meet other people from Chicago, everyone's like, "Oh, where around Chicago do you
Gotcha.
live?" It's some people, do you live in Chicago proper? Do you live outside Chicago? I lived in so many different places around Chicago that I don't really have a hometown, so I just claim the whole area.
Gotcha. Okay. It's funny. My book I'm writing right now, one of the characters came from Chicagoland area, but he was from Wheaton. So that's considered Chicagoland
Okay,
area,
yep,
right?
it
Okay.
is. It is. I
Okay.
never lived on that side of town, but yes, it is.
Okay. So I first want to ask you a little bit, tell me about your family, because when we got on here, poor Danielle, she's like, I have to use my AirPods because I'm hoping to block out the sound of my children, and I'm hoping the show that we have on is going to keep them occupied long enough. So tell us a little bit about your family, Danielle.
Absolutely. My husband and I married 7, 8 years ago or so. Both of us were in our 30s, so married a little later. Already established in our careers before we met. And we ended up having kids a couple years later. So I have a 2-year-old. Nope, he just turned 3. A 3-year-old and a 5-year-old who, when this goes to recording, will actually be close to 6, which is just a little scary. Um,
Wait till they're 16,
uh,
then you have something to worry about.
oh my goodness. So yeah, um, my little guys, they are 2 little boys. They are just so much fun and energetic. And my oldest one is in school now and absolutely loves it. And my littlest guy can't wait to get to school too.
Uh, they grow
He'll
so
be like his big
fast.
brother. Oh, they
Yeah,
do.
so
They really,
fast.
really do.
Yeah. So tell me,
And
oh, go ahead. Sorry.
I was say we also have a dog who her name is Penny. And if you join my newsletter, I have a little spot feature with her every news or once a month in my
Oh,
newsletters.
fun. What a great
So
idea.
she's a Labrador retriever, and she's the one who gives away my books. So,
But she's in your
but
books
she's a
too,
lot
you
of
said?
fun.
You said she's in your books?
Why? She gives away my books.
Oh, gives away. Oh, wow. Okay.
Yes, yes, I know. She snatches one or another author's books to give away.
Sweet. And did you say she's in your books too, though? Did you say that or did I miss?
I include a lot of animals in my books. In fact, in A Father for Her Boys, it's a rescue dog.
Wonderful. So Father for Boys, just so you all know, comes out this
Mhm.
month. Well, it comes out in August. We are recording this in February. So God willing, this will, both of us are still around. It will come out in August, right
Yeah.
before the book releases. So you'll have in the show notes, I'll give you links where to get it. I'll give you links to her Amazon author page. I'll give you links to her website so you can sign up for a newsletter. I'll give you links to everything that she has. So you don't have to search very far. You just got to click a link and you'll be able to get to Danielle. So you said earlier that you and your husband were both already established in your careers when you
Mhm.
got together. So what was your career before, or was it writing already?
I did some writing, mainly short stories at the time. My career, though, was in education. I taught everything from, I started out teaching private piano lessons, and it morphed into teaching writing, both in the classroom with a homeschool group, and then online with middle school and all with middle school and high school. Absolutely loved it. The kids were so fantastic. But then I got my graduate degree in communication, in intercultural communication. And so I was an adjunct professor at the university I worked at and taught intercultural communication and group dynamics, and
Wow.
love love those topics. I could probably spend the whole podcast just talking about those.
Oh my gosh. It's so funny. I just called my pastor's wife yesterday trying to get piano lessons. That's how sad I am. I've wanted in my whole life. I've wanted to take piano. My grandpa was a professional piano player. But he
Oh,
never learned how to read he never learned how to read music. He would
those
see
are special
something
people.
once and he could play anything. And he played professionally for a long time without being able to read a note, which is kind of
Wow,
incredible. But yeah, you
that's
sounds like you have
amazing.
a great background there to do all kinds of
Yeah,
stuff. So I love that. I
it's fun.
did a writing with a friend of mine. She was a homeschool. She did writing classes for homeschool students
Mhm.
at the church. They had a classroom and they would come in and that was part of their curriculum, but she did not know how
Yeah,
to do creative writing. So I was able to go in there and do the creative part, which was a lot of
that's
fun. And it's
awesome.
amazing to
That's
see how
awesome.
much those kids can grow from the time you walk in the door to the end of that semester, how
I
incredibly they can
know.
grow. Yeah.
I loved one of my favorite classes to teach was description. So in my online teaching, I would, middle school, I would have, boys and girls, but the boys with description was probably my favorite because they took the description to like the nth degree, and it was so fantastic. They were some of my favorite students to
Oh,
work with.
nice. Yeah, that's really sweet.
Uh,
So then what got you to writing, like you have all these historical fictions. I have As
mhm.
Silent as the Night, which I've actually seen recently on social media. As Silent as the Night, Strike of the Heart. I'm reading this off my little cheat sheet. Confessions to a Stranger and Refuge for the Archeologist, which I thought was interesting. And those are all historical fiction. So is that where you started writing with novels?
Yes and no. So historical romance has always been um, historical romance and then suspense have always been my two favorite genres. And as I wrote short stories, I would usually pick one or the other. As I was writing A Strike to the Heart, it started out as contemporary, but something was missing in the contemporary romance. So I was doing some research and discovered um, a couple years ago here in Wisconsin, there was some um, just milk prices were low. Just the supply and demand issues going on. The dairy farmers were having to dump their milk, and I was like, has this ever happened before? Well, it has. In 1933, Wisconsin had
Oh,
3 different milk strikes where it was not only cheaper for the farmers to dump their milk and sell it, which is kind of amazing to think
crazy.
about it. It was right. And that was the heart of the Great Depression, the worst of it.
Right.
But they also went on strike to keep other people from delivering their milk to demand somebody needs to fix this. And it was violent, like crazy violent, call the National Guard kind of violent. Um, anyway, suspense for my story, all of a sudden it was like it clicked. I'm like, this is the perfect setting to put my romantic suspense. So I rewrote the whole story. Um, and that is A Strike to the Heart. And it worked out perfect. Like all the dates and times, it just lined up so perfectly. And I pitched that one, and it was accepted by Iron Stream Media. So that is my traditionally published historical. And they let me do bookend books, a prequel and then a Christmas novella on either side of it. And those two are my indie books, all set around the same little farming town in my fictional farming town in Wisconsin.
So
Around the
a strike to the heart. You said you have the bookend books. What are the titles of those? Are those the other ones that are here? Or are they different?
those are To Stand in a Breach and As Silent as the Night. to stand in the breach of the
Oh,
book, the prequel, to set out the milk strikes. And then everyone loved one of the side characters in A Strike to the Heart. So he was my character in As Silent as the Night.
okay. And Silent as the Night, that's Christmas, right?
Mm-hmm. Yep.
Okay. Awesome. So yeah, that's the one that I've seen around. And I figured it had to be historical because he looks like he's in a uniform, which I mean, I know that, but it's just the way it just looks historical
Right.
on the cover. Yeah,
Yep.
awesome. So then,
And then in March, I'm starting a brand new historical romantic suspense series. This one is set in a fishing village on Lake Michigan. And the first book is Confessions to a Stranger. And
hang
then
on.
when this recording goes to uh, you know goes live, the second book will already be available. It will be out in July, and that's Refuge to the Archeologist for the Archeologist.
Okay, so that's the one that are already on I saw those on your website then.
Yep.
So I'm like,
Yep, those
yeah,
are.
John, I've already written them down. So
I'm
those are part
recording
of
this, they're all up for pre-order, but
so
by the
those are
time
your
it goes live, they'll both be out.
fishing
Which
village.
is
What is
amazing.
what is the name of the series? Is it
Harbored in Crow's Nest. And Crow's Nest is the name of the fishing village. Harbored in Crow's Nest.
okay, wonderful. And so tell me how you got started writing. I mean, you've gone from excuse me. You've gone from having this great teaching experience and you were an adjunct professor and you've done all these things. And what got you doing the writing? When did you start that seriously writing?
So I started writing way back when I was little. I loved stories. I read voraciously. Like I could read 2 books in a day, kind of like I was that kid. Give me library time.
I was that kid too.
So I started writing. I remember in 3rd grade, a writer came to our class, our school, and I remember our teacher giving us an assignment to write a story. So that was my very first short story. And I'll never forget. It was like a basketball hoop and a star, and I don't even know what it was, but it was fun. From then on, I was determined to write a book. So 4th grade, I wrote my first chapter book, which was, like 25 pages long, which for a 10-year-old,
It's pretty big, yeah.
yeah. And I just kept going from there. Every once in a while, I'd write one that was good enough to get published in a magazine, a short story, or an online publication, and just kept, kept trying, kept writing. I don't know that I was ever not serious about it. I mean, it took me probably 10 years or more to learn the craft enough. I studied writing. I grabbed every writing book I could. I met amazing friends along the way that have become critique partners and readers. And so it was one of those things. It was just a matter of writing. I kept trying different things to find like what would be the story that would open the door for me. And I think what I learned along the way was to write what I love.
Right.
And so when I came back to combining and combined romance, historical, and suspense, all of a sudden I found my sweet spot. So why am I writing a contemporary sweet romance, right? Took out the historical and the suspense.
Right.
Because suspense all the time it's hard to write that much suspense and the to stay historical the whole time. So I wanted to try to write just a romance. I love reading. Love inspired romances are some of my, like, when I just need to relax, I read them. So I'm like, I'm gonna try writing one. So it took me 2 tries. I submitted to the a couple of years ago to the Love Inspired Author Search, and didn't made it through the first round, but didn't make it past the second round. But gotta try again. So wrote A Father for Her Boys, and it made it past the first and second rounds.
Wonderful.
And here I am. So I would say probably the hallmark of my writing has been just don't give up. Just keep trying, keep writing, try something new. And, eventually, eventually here we are.
But don't you think it's really critical that indie publishing, I don't want to say it's easy, but it's easier than finding some publishers of larger houses. You need to have an agent. I've been through that route.
Right.
Smaller ones they don't want an agent because they're small, they don't need that. But when you indie publish, it's a little bit easier. So you got people jumping all over the place. I have a story, I wrote it, I'm publishing it, and they're there. And I think so
Right.
often they don't bother to take, I mean, I was 10 years writing novels, full on novels with an agent, with the
Right.
whole thing before I actually found the publisher
Yep.
for me. But it takes
Exactly.
going to conferences, taking classes, learning,
Mhm.
being able to really learn the craft of writing and honing that,
Right.
being better at that. And I just think that's so critical. And especially Christian fiction has gotten so much better. But for a long time, it was
Mhm.
kind of, the hokey B-rated books that nobody really wanted to read. And it's finally getting a leg up where there is some really good writing happening.
Yep. And I think that was part of my struggle too, is I tend to like to dive into those deep topics. A father for her boys, I the characters are dealing with grief in the story, and it I'd like I don't like to shy away from those deep emotions.
Right.
I like to let my characters feel them. So the fact that Christian fiction is created space for that, I think, has allowed my books to finally come, you know, have a
You
space as
seem,
well.
I really do think
Yep.
that's critical because I think it's unrealistic,
Hmm.
really, to live this life without dealing with, I mean, all my books have a lot
It's
of deep stuff, and it's unrealistic to go through this life
exactly.
without that. And it's kind of
Yep.
like okay, I don't want to get myself in trouble here, but it's kind of like a Hallmark movie where it's totally formulaic and you have the same blonde chick in the same situation with a good looking guy in his situation. And you can, anybody could write that. Very little conflict. There's very little emotion. It's just not real life. And I understand there is a market for that because a lot of people just want to get away from real life. They don't
Hmm.
want to delve into the deep topics. They just want some fluff to escape to. And I get that. I'm not capable of writing that. And it doesn't sound like you're capable of writing that either because it's not real. And if
Right.
you've got a faith message in your story, and I'm assuming you
Yep.
do have a faith message in
Hmm.
your story, we grow in tribulation.
Hmm.
We grow, in our faith. We learn from making mistakes and drawing closer to the
Hmm.
Lord. And you don't do that most often. People, when they're comfortable, they don't do a whole lot of that.
Right.
So,
Right. It's very true.
in order
It's very
for me,
true.
for it to be a Christian fiction of any kind that's going to draw people closer to the Lord, you've got to see people go through hard things and wrestle through
Yep.
it.
Yep.
Yeah.
Very
Wasn't
much.
easy for
Very much.
anybody in the Bible.
No.
Oh my gosh. So that inspired you to write. So I'm going to make an assumption here, and you could just say, no, you
Mhm.
are dead wrong. I'm assuming you went to writing full time when you had your kids.
Yes.
Okay.
Well, a combination of it was my second actually that I went to writing full time. I worked from home for a decade. Other than after I got married, I went straight from. I've been self-employed for my entire career. Because even this odd jobs that I would work in um, in the traditional workforce, I always worked for myself in some capacity. So it wasn't a big jump for me to just, you know, shed other jobs and to finally come to just writing. And it all coincided with, 2020 and everything kind of closing down. I had
Amazing.
my, uh, I had my youngest a couple weeks before everything shut down. So I was on maternity leave when everything started anyway, or just about coming to the end of it. Um, and so I started the new school year after my maternity leave and realized I can't juggle everything. And my husband still works a non-medical essential job, so he was at work the whole time anyway. So yeah, I just couldn't juggle everything. And when it came down to having to pick what I wanted to keep in my life, writing was the job that stayed. And right after I made that decision, I got my first traditional book contract. So
Wow. So, that was confirmation right there.
it was confirmation, absolutely. Like, it still gives me chills to think about how God just orchestrated all of that and as I made those decisions, and love it. Absolutely love it. So I call myself a write from home mom. So
Yeah.
more than just,
Good one.
a work from home mom, I'm a
Right.
write from home.
So tell us, since you said that, let's segue into this. Tell us
Mhm.
what a typical day looks like for you. Because I know some people,
Sure.
will sit down and pound out 2,000 words in an hour and not worry about editing. I can't do that. I'm an A-type personality, and I can't move to the next thing without totally editing and going back and getting into the
Mhm.
emotion. And some people, they're happy if they can write 100 words a day, So with
Right.
2 kids on board, tell me what that looks like for you.
So I would so right now this is going to change next school year. So by the time this comes out, our whole our system
We're
will
gonna
change.
shift,
So I guess that's the role of the day, is that every day is different.
flexibility. You need to be flexible.
The flexibility is the name of the game. I have always been good at working with distractions and in bursts. It's just been a hallmark of how, like, going through grad school, working for myself, like being self-motivated. I would often work in coffee shops just to give myself some distraction to make me focus. So it's working out well
Wow.
now, having two littles.
You've kind of
Um,
taught yourself
right.
to be able to work in chaos.
Before,
Right.
yep, before I ever got to this point.
Wow.
So, so that serves me well. I rarely get long chunks of time to write. So, the kids are playing really nice, grab my computer and pound out as many words as I can get in until they're coming to me running for a snack. And they're two little boys, so you can imagine how many snacks.
Oh yeah.
Lots of snacks.
If I had my son before my daughter, I would have not had another child. I was like, it's a good thing he was born last, or she would have never seen the light of day. So,
two boys,
do you get,
Yeah,
so you're very busy during the day, and you can still
Mhm.
jump in and focus enough to write the next little bit when you have time?
Yep. So I usually aim for 1 to 2,000 words a day, and it takes me all day to, get little
Well,
snippets. I write, you know,
kind of all day.
yes, right. Um, so I just, write a couple hundred words here and there. Sometimes on the weekend I can catch up if I didn't make those word counts. My husband is so supportive, and he'll take the boys outside to go play or something,
Nice.
and then I can actually have an uninterrupted hour to sit and work. And it's amazing how much you can get done with uninterrupted time. Sometimes I forget how much I can get done in that amount of time, but wouldn't trade it. And I know it's going to change. Both boys will be in school in the next couple of years, but I will have uninterrupted time, and we'll probably miss some of the chaos.
Yeah. Well, we might have to go to a coffee
But
shop so you have a little chaos around you.
I know.
I would, oh my gosh,
Recreate the experience.
I would love to be able, I'm like, goodness sake, if there's any noise, if I hear my husband on the phone with somebody, if I just get distracted so easily. I don't know how you do it, but
Yep.
good for you.
When I was in high school doing homework, I would put on like music or something to distract to make me tune out everything but my work. Otherwise, I would sit there and be daydreaming a new story or something. And I learned that
Huh.
I need to have distraction in order to focus.
Would you say you're an
So
extrovert?
no,
How
I
funny.
am I am very much an introvert, and have become even more so
Yeah.
since becoming a mom.
Writing will do that to you. It's like,
Mhm,
I taught school for several years, and I loved it.
mhm.
I mean, I was on fire for it. It was enjoyable, but I'll
Mhm.
tell you when the more I'm home alone, like my husband is a Billy Graham chaplain, so he just went on deployment
Okay.
in Alabama for a week. And I didn't want to leave the house at all. Like, I don't want to answer the phone. I don't want to talk to anybody. I said, God forbid something happens to you anytime soon. I'm just going to hole up in the house and die in a little covel because I don't like going anywhere. It's like if you have that
I
alone time, you are just so protective
Yep.
of it, you know?
Yep. Very much. Very much.
Yeah.
I think that's why I read as much as I do, because by the end of the day, I am ready to just take me to a story world and let me stay there for a while.
Well, and that's reading is important to writing. We all know that. You know, you have
Hmm.
to be an avid reader in order to be a good writer. It goes hand
Very much.
in hand. So I
Very
don't
much.
finding the time to do everything. You know, you have marketing. What does that look like for you? Your marketing plan, and do you?
So I um I'm a book blogger. So my marketing kind of dovetails with talking about everybody else's books. And then, I sprinkle in my books. And then around launch day, I take a break from book blogging to focus on launching a new book. Um, but yeah, so I do bookstagramming and book blogging. So if book reviews, I publish probably 2 a week or so. Book
Wow.
reviews. If you find me on Instagram, I love taking pictures of books. It gives me my creative outlet. Talking about books, helping other authors talk about their books. It's a lot of fun. So um, that's kind of how I built my marketing plan, my newsletter. Um, I love interacting with fellow readers. As much as I write books, I am also a reader and love talking about the books that I read.
So how do you fit time in to read 2 books a week? I mean, I'm trying to think. I just want a little bit of time for an outside hobby other than working marketing, you know, writing marketing, and I don't
Mhm.
have children at home. I would love to be able to whip out 2 books a week, and I just don't. Where do you find? Are you a morning person or a night person?
I am a morning person. Um, so I read at night though, because that's by then I am exhausted.
And
So
you can stay
I
awake.
read.
Like I start reading at night and I'm
Mhm.
asleep because we're up at 4:30. That's our typical wake
Okay,
up time is 4:30 in the morning. So by
it's a
8:30
little
at
earlier
night,
than us, but not by much.
by 8:30 at night, it's everything I can do to keep my eyes open. So, and reading does tend to put me to sleep anyway.
Yes, it's my downtime, my unwinding time after the day. So, and then it's bed.
So if you're up at 5 o'clock in the morning, what time are you going to bed at night?
Depends, but yeah, I 8:30, 9 o'clock.
Yeah,
I am not much.
yeah.
I'm not much good after dinner for anybody.
It's eating
Even
that
in
food.
grad school, even after grad school or in grad school, people would tease me. I would turn into a pumpkin at like 8:30, 9 o'clock, and other people would be just starting homework. And I'm like, guys, I am a morning person. I am peopled out. I am ready to go hide in my little cubby hole.
Yeah, I hear you. Yeah, that's why it amazes me,
No,
you know, how you get so much done, but you must be a pretty quick reader too. I would guess you
I
read
am.
fast. Yeah.
I've always been a very quick reader. Like I said, like when I was a kid, I could get through 2 books in a day. If you left me alone, I can.
Yeah, I
I
remember reading
can.
like that. I remember that I would stay up till, and I don't know, when I was younger, when my kids were little, I would get up, I would be up at 5 o'clock so I could get a workout in before they woke up. But I was reading, if I was into a book, I could be up till 2 or 3 in the morning. There's, and I would read. And now it's like, I don't know what happened. It's old age, I tell you. You just,
I will say, in a strange way, having littles does help that because if they're up in the middle of the night, I have a Kindle, and so I'll read while I'm up with them. If they're sick or you know in the early days of midnight feedings,
right.
I would read. So I actually, in a weird way, read more when my kids were babies because of how many late nights and interruptions at night I had. It kept me awake
Yeah. Well,
while I was up with
perfect.
them.
Well, is there anything else you would like? I'm trying, oh, I did write this down when I looked at your website. There's two things you have on your website. And I saw that you do blog a lot about books, which was, I saw that a lot, but you have something called Sunday Dinner. And then you have something else called First Line Fridays. Can you tell us a little bit about
Yep.
that before we finish
Sure,
up?
I'll do First Line Friday first. I love First Line Fridays. It's actually hosted by Carrie Schmidt over on Reading is My Superpower. If you don't follow her, I totally recommend following her. She is book blogger extraordinaire. She works with Just Read Publicity Tours as well, who I also absolutely love. I work with them as both a reader and I'm a book bee as a reader. That's where I get a lot of my Bookstagram books from. And then also as an author, they do some of my publicity tours. So highly recommend both.
So I
Carrie
didn't catch
and
the second
company.
one. The second one, I didn't you cut out just a little bit. You said Carrie Schmidt, Reading is My Superpower. What was the second one?
Yep. Just Read Publicity Tours. You can find them on all over, but I do a lot of my Bookstagram tours. I'm part of their tours there, and then as my books, I use them as my publicity, my main publicity as well. But so Carrie hosts First Line Fridays. So if you go to her site on Fridays, she has everyone who participates can put their links in to her blog page, and then you can find everybody who's reading what on Fridays. It's really fun.
Wow.
So all you do is post the first line of the book you're currently reading, and then everyone else can talk about what books they're reading too. So I'd love you guys definitely jump in. Like whoever's listening to this on a Friday, come tell me what book you're reading. I love it.
So on First Line Fridays, what you're doing is people get on your blog or get on your website on Fridays, and they can post the same idea what Carrie Schmidt's doing.
Kind of, yeah. So I post my first line, what I'm reading, and then in the comments, anyone can post what they're reading too.
So it's a
great opportunity.
First line of that
first
book,
line of
right?
the book you're reading.
Perfect. Okay,
Yep.
and then Sunday Dinner.
It's really fun. Sunday Dinner is my interview series. I started that one last year, I believe it was. I wanted an opportunity to talk about research. I love research and I love settings and I love culture. It's that intercultural communication side of me. So it's my chance to interview people about things they're passionate about. Right now, it's primarily authors talking about their latest books and the research behind their books or the setting behind their books. For example, let's see, one of my first interviewees was Laura Franz. When she forget the name of the book, the name of the book, but it was about a chocolatier, and so she talked all about chocolate. It was a great interview. Rosanna White also has done a couple interviews for me with her latest Yesterday's Ties. She talked a lot about the development of the book and the history behind writing it. So it's really, really fun. I love it. Almost every Sunday, every once in a while, if a holiday jumps in, I'll miss a day or something. But the premise is that Sunday dinner here in Wisconsin, or both in Wisconsin and okay, Mama's almost finished. Just wait 1 second, okay?
We're actually running out of time,
My
so it's
time is
perfect
running
timing.
short. Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty fun.
Do you want to leave us with
There he
anything?
is.
Hi. Do you want to
Hi.
leave us with anything before we sign off so you can get back to parenting?
Okay. Now, okay. Please stop. Thank you. And here comes my other one. You guys go wait a couple more minutes. Mama's almost done. last things.
Last thing.
Last thing is, no, okay, you stop. See if I can finish last things. Okay. Last thing would be find me on either Facebook or Instagram. And or find me on my online at DanielleGrandinetti.com. See, I'll spell that for you since it's a long name. D-A-N-I-E.
You know what? I have
Oh,
all that.
you got the
I'm gonna
perfect.
put a link for that. You don't have to worry about that. I will put all this stuff.
Perfect. I know it's a long name to spell.
Yeah, I will. I have your name.
Oh,
I'll put your website on there. I'll have it in the show notes. They will
perfect.
find there'll be no reason that they'll miss anything.
Perfect.
Okay.
Yeah, find me online. I love to interact with you as a reader. Yeah, that's probably the last thing. Sorry, I'm getting distracted now with little squirts.
Well, you know what? They had perfect timing because we're at 36 minutes, so we are ready to go. Thank you so much, Danielle. I am so it was a blessing to speak with you today, and we'll get all this stuff up in August and look forward to seeing your new book, A Father for Her Boys, Love Inspired, and it's been a pleasure.
I am excited.
Okay.
Thank you so much. I am very excited, and it was wonderful to be here today. Thank you for having me.
You're so welcome. Say hi to your boys for us.
I will.
Bye.
Bye.